is serious, and I did not expect this would happen, and I'd like your help on it. The president has inspired death threats against me and many sitting up here with me. In June 2025, an individual left 11 voicemails at my district office. On the voicemails, they said, "Get the message to him."
This may look like a routine congressional exchange, but it's actually a test of how power responds when elected officials say the system meant to protect them isn't working. What's really being tested here is whether institutions can remain neutral when political tension spills into real-world consequences. This raises broader questions about accountability, enforcement standards, and the boundaries between rhetoric and responsibility. In this video, we'll break down what this confrontation reveals about authority, oversight, and the structural limits of federal enforcement.
Recognizes the gentleman from California.
Great, thank you. Madam Attorney General, you acknowledged earlier to Mr. Johnson that President Trump was mentioned and the release countless times, you said, in the Epstein files. I just want to play a video, though, for you that I think speaks to the frustration that many of these victims have. Times Trump's name appears in the files, so it could at least be 1,000 times. Is that right?
The number is a total misleading factor. We have not released anyone's name. We have not released anyone's name in the Epstein files that has not been credible.
Director, could it
we
at
have
least be 1,000
released
times?
every piece of legally permissible information.
Okay,
you can
so
characterize the numbers however you want it.
Claiming my time, Director. It sounds like if you don't know the number, it could at least be 1,000 times. Which
It's not.
means me.
It's not.
Is it at least 500 times?
No.
Is it at least 100 times?
No.
Then what's the number?
I don't know the number.
I understand why the victims are frustrated, and the Attorney General acknowledged what Mr. Patel would not acknowledge, that it was way more than 1,000 times. But I want to move, Madam Attorney General, to weaponization of government. And yesterday it was reported that 6 members of Congress had indictments sought against him, and they were not returned by a grand jury. My colleagues have spoken about their frustration of being in subpoenas and having cell phone records combed through. Well, in 2017 and 2018, Adam Schiff and I had our cell phone records and email records combed through, not by you, but a different Department of Justice under the president. It was in retaliation for our role in the Russia interference campaign. An Inspector General report would find this improper and that the predicate for it was absurd. In 2020, after sitting on 2 committees that were a part of the president's first impeachment, an FBI agent leaked my cooperation in a national security case where my campaign was targeted. The president's FBI senior leadership authorized 2 statements to the press that said I was never suspected of wrongdoing and only helped the investigation. But that didn't stop the death threats or my GOP colleagues from referring me to an ethics investigation where Kevin McCarthy's chairman on the ethics committee would find the same thing as the FBI. Our current FBI director would then write a book called Government Gangsters and identify a long list of enemies. About a quarter of them have been either investigated or indicted. He listed me at the very top along with Adam Schiff, and during that same testimony refused to recuse himself when asked if he would recuse if any case came across his desk involving me or people on that list. Since that testimony, his department has put me under investigation with Senator Schiff for the nonsense mortgage fraud cases that we've seen. I get it. This is what the president does. I've priced it in. We have a bingo card at home that my kids have made of what will come next. I expected that the president would come after his enemies. But what I want to talk to you next is serious, and I did not expect this would happen, and I'd like your help on it. The president has inspired death threats against me and many sitting up here with me. In June 2025, an individual left 11 voicemails at my district office. On the voicemails, they said, "Get the message to him. I'm going to hunt him down, that motherfucker, and toss his ass over the Golden Gate Bridge by my fucking self." Donald Trump's Department of Justice in the Northern District of California declined to prosecute. On May 14, 2025, on Twitter, responding to something I posted, an individual said, "No, it wasn't Eric, and now I'm going to kill you." The Department of Justice from the Southern District of Texas declined to prosecute. May through December of 2025, we received messages at my office that said, "I hope somebody shoots you and your children and your wife in the head. Pew, pew, motherfucker, pew, pew." I would stay indoors as much as possible, and my children, unfortunately, have to do that. The Department of Justice has not charged this individual and cited that he's a prolific caller and has health conditions, although what we have found in our own investigation and his voicemails is that he has said he will employ others to do this. The president can come after me. It's fine. I'm in the arena. So are these folks. But we never expected that the Department of Justice would not seek to prosecute and investigate those who are making threats against us. And that would include those on that side of the aisle. And I'm just asking for your help to protect life, because life is at risk with the environment we're in right now.
Congressman, I completely agree with you. I know about several of those personally involving you. I believe one has been charged publicly, and there's something I would be happy to talk to you about off camera, but I can assure you that they are very serious. They are being looked into, and I can give you more details on those. None of you should be threatened, ever. None of your children should be threatened. None of your families should be threatened. And I will work with, you can come into my office any day. I will work with all of you on both sides of the aisle if you are ever threatened. And I'll gladly talk to you after this hearing about your cases. But I can tell you some of them are very active.
Appreciate that. And I yield back.
Gentleman yields back, and we're sorry for what the gentleman and his family have had to go through. We appreciate what the Attorney General said. And I think some of the things that the gentleman from California related, we can all relate to, and it's unfortunate, it's wrong, as the Attorney General said, and we appreciate the help we get from the Justice Department. With that, we will now recognize the gentleman.
In that charged moment inside the hearing room, Congressman Eric Swalwell leaned forward and spoke not as a partisan combatant, but as a man under pressure. He reminded the Attorney General that she herself had acknowledged earlier testimony about names appearing repeatedly in the Epstein files, pressing for clarity, pressing for numbers, pressing for accountability. Yet when the questioning turned from statistics to something far more personal, the tone shifted. The hearing ceased to be about documents and disclosures. It became about fear, responsibility, and the limits of power in a divided republic. Swalwell described a pattern: investigations, scrutiny, public accusations, and the long shadow cast by political rivalry. He spoke of past inquiries into his records, of Inspector General findings that called certain actions improper, of statements from federal officials that cleared him of wrongdoing. He described what he framed as retaliation tied to political disputes and oversight battles. But then he pivoted, and the chamber grew still. Because what came next was not about procedure or partisanship. It was about the human cost of public life. He recounted messages left at his office, threats sent through digital channels, statements from individuals who spoke in language meant to intimidate and terrify. He said his family had felt the weight of it. He said his children had felt it. He explained that in some cases, authorities had declined prosecution. And in that instant, the hearing became something else entirely. Not a clash of ideologies, but a test of institutions. Because when a lawmaker stands before the nation and says that warnings against him have gone unanswered, the question is no longer about party lines. It is about whether the machinery of justice moves with equal force for all. The Attorney General's response was calm, deliberate, and unmistakably careful. She acknowledged awareness of several of the incidents. She stated that some were already under active review. She affirmed that no public servant and no family member should ever face threats. And she extended an offer: cooperation, conversation, and assistance beyond the camera's reach. It was a moment not of confrontation, but of fragile consensus. For a brief span of seconds, the political divide narrowed, replaced by something more fundamental: recognition that the rule of law must stand above the passions of the moment. What unfolded in that exchange reveals something profound about American democracy. The system is designed for conflict. Debate is not a flaw, it is the engine. But the system was never meant to normalize intimidation as a byproduct of disagreement. When elected officials begin to measure their safety against the temperature of political rhetoric, it signals a deeper strain in the civic fabric. Not a collapse, but a warning. Not a crisis, but a crossroads. History teaches that republics are tested not only by external threats, but by internal pressure, by distrust, by suspicion, by the slow erosion of shared norms. The founders argued fiercely, accused each other bitterly, and still insisted on a principle that held their experiment together: that political struggle must never become personal peril. Because once that line blurs, the arena of ideas risks becoming something darker, something less free. Swalwell's words carried frustration, yes, but also a challenge to institutions to prove that they function without fear or favor, a challenge to leadership to show that authority is exercised with restraint, and a challenge to the public watching at home to remember that democracy is not sustained by outrage alone. It is sustained by accountability, transparency, and the willingness to defend the rules even when they protect someone you disagree with. The chairman's closing remark, expressing sympathy and noting that members across the aisle could relate, underscored a quiet truth. Beneath the noise of partisan warfare lies a shared vulnerability. Every elected official, regardless of ideology, stands exposed before the judgment of millions. They accept scrutiny as the price of service, but they do not accept intimidation. And neither should the nation. Because justice, if it is to mean anything, must be consistent. It must answer not to personalities, but to principles. It must move not according to headlines, but according to law. And when citizens see those principles upheld calmly, firmly, without spectacle, trust begins to rebuild. Slowly, imperfectly, but unmistakably. This hearing will fade from the news cycle. The clips will circulate, the arguments will be debated, the interpretations will multiply. Yet what remains is the question it raised. In an era of fierce division, can America still protect both its disagreements and its people at the same time? The answer will not be decided in a single hearing room. It will be decided in the daily conduct of institutions, leaders, and citizens alike. Power is tested not when it is praised, but when it is challenged. Leadership is revealed not when it is applauded, but when it is questioned. And democracy survives not because conflict disappears, but because the rule of law stands taller than conflict itself. Subscribe to Liberty Report USA and stand with us as we continue to examine the moments that define power, accountability, and the future of the American Republic.